guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wasn't really intending on doing this video because I didn't think that I had that many books that I was excited about for 2021. And then I started putting the list together and I found out that I was wrong in that assumption. So I have kind of just an assortment of books that I'm looking forward to that I want to talk to you guys about that maybe you guys didn't know about were coming out, or just in general. I feel like this is going to be a good glimpse into what my tastes have changed into. And I think that's partially why I stopped doing a lot of releases videos, is because my taste drastically changed. I'm no longer really reading just YA anymore. I'm actually not really reading YA almost at all anymore. So these are the books that are basically from my favorite authors, or that sound the most interesting to me. Mostly it's favorite authors that have releases coming out next year, because everything's up in the air for the future as of right now. So these are the few titles that I know are going to happen at some point in time. I have no organization for this video either. I feel like I probably should have gone through and actually organized this list by like release date and what has a cover and what doesn't and what actually has a title and what doesn't. But I'm just gonna go for it because that's the lifestyle that I live nowadays. It's just chaotic and messy and we just figure it out as we go. So I have literally just a list on my phone that I'm gonna run through. I have release dates for things that have release dates, but keep in mind, nothing is set in stone at this point. A lot of these titles were things that were supposed to come out this year that got bumped until next year because of the pandemic. And I feel like a lot of titles that have release dates have already been bumped further into the year. Some of these, who knows, might not even come out next year. We have no idea what the future holds. So take all of these release dates with a grain of salt. So we're gonna start this video off with a book that is in no way going to be surprising to literally anybody, especially given what's sitting behind me. The first book that I'm obviously the most excited for the entire year is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I am Maas trash. I embrace that. I love it. The ACOTAR series is probably my favorite series of all time. It's my most reread series of all time. Prythian is just my happy place, and I just adore the characters. I'm not thrilled that it's Nessian. I have opinions. I have videos planned about this upcoming book and my theories and everything, so those are in the works. I'm not going to get into that, but you better believe that I'm so excited for this book. I have been rereading the second two books in that series an obscene amount of times, and it still brings me just as much joy. So the idea of being able to finally go back to Prythian and have new material and new stories is just so exciting. So like I said, this one already got bumped. It was supposed to come out in January. Now it's coming out February 16th, which isn't a huge bump, but it's still enough. It's still gonna be rough. I'm gonna need this book to get me through the dark times of winter. While I'm on that same note, if the second Crescent City book comes out next year, there are rumors that it will be, but there's literally like no concrete information. I'm gonna toss that on this list also. There's literally no title, no release date, but if she's managing to do 2 books a year again, good God, good luck to her, because her books are long and her worlds are in-depth, and she used to release a Throne of Glass and an ACOTAR book every year, and Throne of Glass ended, she picked up Crescent City, and I feel like it's just a lot. But if we're getting 2 adult releases from her, I am stoked. So consider the second Crescent City book on this list if it comes out next year. The next book that I wanted to talk about actually has a release date and a cover that hopefully won't be bumped, and that is the new Angie Thomas book, Concrete Rose. Angie Thomas is one of those authors that can kind of do no wrong in the YA world, and she's one that I will always read from. This is technically like the Hate U Give book 0, I think. So I think we're following characters that we know from the world. Basically, Angie Thomas releases a title, I read it. The end. This one's coming out on January 12th, so like not that far away. The few titles that I have actual release dates for, most of them are January 12th or like February-ish, because that's the closest release date into 2021 that hopefully won't be moved. Alrighty, the next book that I'm excited about does not technically, I don't know if this is the official title. We've been hearing about this book, and by we, I mean fans of Kennedy Ryan. The new Kennedy Ryan book, I believe the working title is Real. It's the Hollywood romance series. It's supposed to come out next year. There's no release date. I don't even know like what quarter of the year it's supposed to come out in, but this is just the next series that Kennedy Ryan is working on, and Kennedy Ryan is my favorite romance author pretty much of all time. So pretty much any title that she comes out with is gonna make it on my most anticipated list. This honestly doesn't sound like my cup of tea whatsoever, but honestly most of her books don't, and I just trust her that she's just gonna deliver the best, most emotional, sexy story of all time. But I believe this one is somewhat like Hollywood Reporter, I want to say, kind of mafia vibes, like Hollywood socialite scene. None of those things are my go-to, but it's Kennedy Ryan, so I'm gonna read it. All right, sticking in the romance world though, a lot of these titles and authors have not been specifically released, but we do know that in 2021, the True North world by Serena Bowen is expanding. She has been talking to a lot of us, like the fans of hers. I believe we have a couple more titles from Serena Bowen specifically coming out in this world. We have 7 titles out now. I think we are getting at least an 8th and maybe 9th from Serena Bowen that continues the storyline of the Shipleys, but she has taken on an entire like team of other romance authors that she's friends with that are working in the True North world now. So we have kind of like teasers that there's going to be like a cafe, there's going to be a new like tap room bar setting. We have kind of like settings of where this world is going, but this is going to kind of go in the way that like Penny Reed's like the nerdy romance books went, where a whole bunch of authors are basically just going to be writing in the world that a series is well established in. And I'm so excited. And she hasn't released the authors yet. Like we know what some of the authors that she's working with, but we don't know like what order, who is writing what, or titles or anything yet, but basically she has dropped that I believe March, April, and May are all getting releases in the True North world. I'm so excited. So that's all I got for you guys. If you sign up for her mailing list, like her email list, you generally get like behind the scenes stuff, so that's how I know about this. I am so excited though. So those are on this list. Whatever they are, whenever they come out, and whoever they're written by are on this list. Okay, the next book, I'm taking a turn. I told you this video is going to be a mess. It's going to be all over the place. But the next book that I'm so excited for, because I feel like it's written specifically for me, is Across the Green Grassy Fields by Shauna Maguire. This is the 5th book in the Wayward Children series, which is one of like the best series that's like come into the market in recent years. But this one specifically is so up my alley. First of all, the cover is beautiful. It's coming out January 12th. Like we have a release date, we have a cover. Hopefully this is concrete at this point. But this is for the horse girl in me. This literally is taking place in the portal world of Hooflands, I want to say. It's a horse world. There's centaurs, there's unicorns. It's made for me. This is the story that I have been waiting for. So obviously I'm excited over it. And January 12th isn't that far away. The next 2 things that I have on my list are literally just author names, and this is the most vague thing ever, but basically I'm excited for whatever Riley Sager's next book is gonna be. Riley Sager drops a book every year, so I'm assuming we're getting one from him in 2021, and Home Before Dark has been his peak so far. Like, his books have just kind of gotten steadily better as they have released, and I am just so excited for whatever he writes next. If there is a title out, let me know, but from what I can find, we don't have any information. But I'm assuming he's gonna release a book because he does every year, so it's on the list. And the other author that I'm excited for is also in the background of this video. R.F. Kuang has a dark academia book coming out, and I don't know if it's coming out in 2021 or not. I know she's writing it now, but there's like no speculation of like release date or title or anything, but she's been talking about it for a long time. I am the biggest fangirl of R.F. Kuang. She wrote the Poppy War series, by the way, if that's what I was pointing to. And that concluded this year, so her next project, I know she said she has a 2-book deal signed on with, I think the same, I'm assuming still Harper. I don't know if it's the same, I'm assuming still Harper. And she doesn't know what the second book is, but she's writing a standalone Oxford dark academia story that tackles, I think it's somewhat historical, and it's tackling racism. I know she's discussing that a lot. I follow all of her live streams that she does, and she's talked about it a lot, and it's tackling a lot of basically basically a lot of not white characters in a dark academia setting, which is something that hasn't really been touched on much. So she is telling that story, and I am so excited for it. So if that comes out in 2021, that is going at the top of the list. I'm so pumped for it. Okay, we're getting back to actual titles and actual books. The next book that I'm so excited for is The Crown of the Gilded Bones by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the third book in the Blood and Ash trilogy. The first one is From Blood and Ash, the second one is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. And y'all, the existential crisis that I had when I finished A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire, oh my god. Like, the last scene of that book, I haven't hurled a book across a room in quite some time. Fortunately, I was listening to the audiobook, so I just took my earbud out and chucked it. I didn't actually do that, but I did audibly say, oh hell no. And then I re-listened to the last chapter and then repeated, oh hell no. So this book, it comes out in April. We don't have an actual release date yet, and she's just been kind of like teasing it for a while, but if you like Sarah J. Maas and you haven't read the series yet, it's fantasy romance, it's spicy, it's good. It's so good. So the third book in this coming out in April, and I'm dying for it. The next book also does not have a release date yet, but it is the third book in the Ren Fair series by Jen DeLuca. It's well matched. This is Mitch and April's story, and I just love this series. They're so happy, and they're just like a little happy place for me, especially because I read Well Played by Jen DeLuca this fall, and it kind of gave me like the experience of going to the Renaissance Fair without actually being able to go this year because hello, it's 2020, you can't do anything fun. But it gave me like the feels of like going to a Ren Fair again, and I love her books. They're so happy, they're a little bit sexy, and they just give me all of the good, happy, warm fuzzies. So the third book in this series is supposed to come out next year. I don't know when. We'll find out eventually. Ooh, this next book, will it come out in 2021? We don't know. That is Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. This has already been bumped so much. This was already bumped prior to the like shit show that 2020 was. Because I talked about this in my releases video last year. Like, this book got announced in 2019, and I had it in my releases video for 2020, and when I posted that video, it had already been bumped to the following year, before we even knew what was coming for us in 2020. So this was already, like, far off in the distance for me. But it's J. Kristoff, it's adult, it's dark vampires. It's gonna be bloody and it's gonna be glorious. As of right now, it has a release date of September 16th, 2021, which is an eternity away from when we heard about it in 2019, but maybe because there's an actual date, it might stick this time. I have very little hope of ever getting this book, but I'm gonna include it on my list every year until we do. I'm so excited for it. Ooh, going back to romance, I guess, kind of. Going back to, like, adult contemporary. The next Casey McQuiston book is coming out, One Last Stop. I'm so excited for it. This is the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue. This one has a tentative release date of May 6th, and again, I'm taking everything with a grain of salt. Who knows when books are actually coming out, but this one does have a cover, so we're a step closer, and I'm so excited for it. And staying in the same genre area, hopefully this one doesn't get bumped again, but Helen Huang's third book, The Heart Principle, is set to come out August 21st. This one did already get bumped from this year to next year. And this is the story that I've been very excited for. This is like the romance that I've wanted to see from book one. This one already got bumped, so hopefully it won't get bumped again, but I'm excited for it. Ooh, the next book just got the cover reveal. As I'm filming this, it was like this past week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know, time is irrelevant. That is Mr. Impossible by Maggie Stiefvater. This cover dropped and everybody was confusion. So, Maggie Stiefvater is one of my favorite just human beings in general. She's somewhat local to me, and I've met her. She's super cool. She's one of those people that I just love following, and I feel like I would just be really good friends with in real life. Like, she's got goats. She's a horse girl. She writes really cool fiction, bizarre stories. She's just a weird, dark little person. I just adore her as a person. So basically anything she writes, I'm going to be excited for. So this is the second book in the Dreamer trilogy, like the Ronin series. It's a spin-off of the Raven Cycle. It's a whole thing. This cover got revealed and everybody was confusion, including me. I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I also didn't love the first one, so I'm not really like heartbroken over the cover change, but everything is odd. The title's weird. It's Mr. Impossible. Everything's confusing, but it's Maggie Stiefvater, so I'm excited for it. And this one, I believe, has a release date of May 18th, so hopefully that's far enough away that it will stick. Oh my god, the next book on this list I'm so excited for. It's the next Becky Chambers book, The Galaxy and the Ground Within, which is set for February 16th. And I love the Wayfarer series. The first two books are some of the best sci-fi that exists on the market. It is just hands down amazing. The third book kind of took me for a ride. I was very confused by the third book, so I'm hoping this fourth book will kind of tie everything back together with what we got from the third book. But I'm excited. And the UK cover got kind of revealed by Fairy Loot with their special edition, so I'm so excited for it. The end. The next book that got revealed that got immediately added to this list is coming out September 21st, and that is TJ Klune's newest book, Under the Whispering Door, and it just sounds so good. So for everybody who finally read The House on the Cerulean Sea this year and got like a glimpse into why I love TJ Klune so much, this is the next book that I think has similar vibes. So I love his Wolfsong series that's like a paranormal adult romance. This is like a weird, I don't even know what genre this falls in. It's technically adult, I want to say. Like, The House on the Cerulean Sea and this new book are kind of in the same vein. Like, the covers look similar. They have nothing to do with each other. But it's this weird mixture of, like, it's adult, it's kind of fantasy, but it also feels like a children's book. Like, it gives you, like, these weird nostalgic feelings, but it definitely, like, the main characters are adults, but they're also children. It's bizarre. If you haven't read The House on the Cerulean Sea, just do yourself a favor and read it. But this one is his next book that I feel like has similar vibes, and it follows, I think, a guy who dies and goes to cross, like, the River of Styx and falls in love with his ferryman. Right? Yeah, I want to read that. So his stuff is generally always queer and just very emotionally amazing. Like, his characters are just so heartfelt and they go through so much together, and it's just, you love every second of his books. So this is his newest one. It's coming out September 16th, and I cannot wait to read it. Going back to YA for my last two books, Kay Ancrum's newest book, Darling. As soon as she announced this, like, early this year, like, I want to say I found out about this in, like, January, maybe last year, I don't know. This is Kay Ancrum's newest book. I adore Kay Ancrum. She's another author that I will always read from. The Wicker King and The Weight of the Stars are some of the best books just in literature in general, but in the YA market, just, they're so good. This is taking a little bit of a turn, and I believe this is kind of a Peter Pan retelling, but it's set in the streets of Chicago, and it follows Peter and Wendy, obviously Wendy Darling, and the Lost Boys, but I know that it basically is kind of flipping the story on its head, and all of the wrongdoings that Peter did actually get kind of vindication for what he put them through. It sounds bizarre and amazing, and I just trust Kay Ancrum at this point, so I'll read anything that she writes. So the fact that she's writing something kind of in a modern, queer, diverse world of Peter Pan sounds amazing. So this one does have a release date of June 22nd, and it does have a cover now, so it feels more real and tangible to me. I can't wait to read it. And the last book that I've just added to this list at the time that I'm filming it is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Mahurin. This is the third book in the Serpent and Dove series. I did not love Blood and Honey, but the ending of Blood and Honey, like, broke my soul, so I have to read the third book now. And I'm hoping that it's just going to have the formulaic YA trilogy issues where book 1 is amazing, book 2 had second book syndrome, and book 3 is so redeeming for the entire series. So I'm hoping that's where we're going with it. It's set to come out August 3rd. I have high hopes for it. I'm gonna read it because the ending of Blood and Honey kind of broke my little heart, so I have questions that I need answers to. So it's on this list. And that's where I'm going to end this list. There's going to be endless titles that are going to be added to this as they are announced and as covers are revealed and release dates are set. I'm sure this list is going to be a never-ending thing, but as of right now, these are the titles that I am the most excited for next year. Mainly A Court of Silver Flames. That's it. If you're gonna take one book away from this video, it's that one. That's the one I'm most excited for. Let me know what books you guys are the most excited for down in the comments, and I will see you guys in my next video.